All right, welcome everyone. Hello and happy Monday. It is that time of day, that time of week, and I am very happy to be streaming to you live today on Photoshop and Smart Objects. For those of you who are new, my name is Terry White, Worldwide Design and Photography Evangelist for Adobe. It's my pleasure to be streaming to you live today. Let me check one thing really quickly here. Cool. It's great to be streaming to you live today and talking about a topic that comes up quite often, and that is how to work with smart objects in Photoshop. So let me just make sure I got all my chat windows open so I don't miss any of your comments. And I see some folks already chiming in over on YouTube and Facebook. And let's see if we can get LinkedIn up here and get them all going. So first and foremost, I hope that wherever you are, you guys are doing well and safe and staying busy and staying creative and not being overwhelmed by anything that's going on right now. I know it's a lot. I know sometimes it can feel very isolated too, especially for those that may be working from home that aren't used to working from home, or those that can't work from home and have to still go out and help the rest of the world survive. So thank you all for all that you do. All right, I am not seeing it over there, but that's okay. Okay, so Pat and Mariana and Nicole and James and Marcia and Richard and Sandy, welcome. I see Carol, John, Mary, Colleen, Ayub, hopefully I'm saying that correctly, Alan, Sin, Colleen all the way from Cape Town, South Africa. She always joins us. Wolfgang, thanks for being here from Germany. I hope that you're safe as well. Valdir, couldn't be a stream without you. And John Stevens, glad that you're here and you're looking forward to this. All right, Donovan, can I get a wow? Wow, Donovan, you got a wow. All right, so with that said, let's go ahead and dive into today's topic. Like I said, it comes up often as a question. I usually show it in conjunction with something else I'm working on. But today we're going to take a look at how this all works together and how you can use smart objects pretty much for anything you do inside of Photoshop. And sometimes you're getting smart objects whether you know you're getting them or not, because a lot of times smart objects can happen automatically and they can help you along your way. All right, so I see lots of folks coming in still. Great. Thanks for all the hellos and all the different places that you guys are chiming in from. But I could give shout outs all day, and maybe we'll do a stream on just shout outs. But today we're going to go ahead and dive into the topic today and start taking a look at these smart objects. Oop, made that a little too big. Let's go back down. One more. Okay, cool. Let's go ahead and switch over to the desktop. That way you'll be able to see what I'm doing. I've got Photoshop open in the corner. I'm in the corner here, but I've got Photoshop open and I don't have a document open because I kind of like to show things from scratch whenever I can. So from scratch means we'll start where you're starting, usually with nothing open, and how you can get started. So someone's asking, is this recorded? All live streams everywhere you are usually recorded. The only reason that it wouldn't be there after the fact is the presenter deleted it. So yes, all my live streams are always recorded. You'll always be able to come back and watch them after the fact. So yeah, yes, to answer your question. Okay, so now that I got Photoshop open, and thanks for the compliment, Sharon, I appreciate that. Now that I got Photoshop open, and Matt said the same thing about this shirt, I'm switching colors every now and then. So thanks. Let's go ahead and dive in and talk about what a smart object is, how you'd make one, what's the benefit, and why you should be using them whenever you can. So I think that's enough of a heads up. So let's start with something that we all kind of understand. You understand, for the most part, resolution. You understand that Photoshop is primarily pixel-based, and that when you take something small and you make it really big, it can become fuzzy, it can become blurred, it can become less sharp, less detailed, because you're taking whatever number of pixels it had and you're spreading them out and you're letting Photoshop interpret new ones in between. So we've all seen that happen. You've all taken something that was really tiny, tried to scale it up, and it kind of fell apart. Well, that's because of resolution. But there's ways to work in that workflow where you're going to make things small, make things big, and not lose resolution and not lose quality because you keep changing the size of things. That's another benefit of smart objects. One of the biggest benefits of smart objects, I think, is that when people want to work as non-destructively as possible. In other words, you want to do things to a layer or to an object, but you want to always be able to come back and change your mind. So that's another reason why we work in layers, and that's another reason why we work with smart objects. So what's a smart object? Let's start with that. All right, I'm going to open up a couple of images here. Let's see, can I license that one? Somebody will let me license this one. If not, I'll just open it as is. Okay, we'll confirm that one. Great, we got that one licensed. That one will sync, and we'll go ahead and open it up. Okay, so I got this jungle scene that I just licensed from Adobe Stock. It doesn't have to be Adobe Stock. Open up whatever image you want. Then I'm going to go ahead and pull in a different image, totally different scene, totally different situation. The trees are not the same or anything. I'm going to pull this in, and just by bringing this in from a library, the minute I click confirm or OK, what's going to happen in my layers panel is I'm going to see that new layer I just pulled in, and it's going to have that little cloud symbol on it. Anytime you see a little symbol like that in the lower right-hand corner, 9 times out of 10, it means that it's a smart object. So whenever you drag things in from a library, they automatically come in as smart objects. Why is that? They automatically come in linked too, so that you can make changes to it. And if you made changes to it, it would update it everywhere you've used it. That's the main reason it happens from the library. But what that means is that that came in as a smart object automatically. So just dragging it in. Now I'm going to drag in one more. But this time I'm going to hold down the Option or Alt key on my keyboard. So when I pull in that same exact lion, or tiger, not lion, tiger. When I pull in this, did I say lion earlier? When I pull in that same exact tiger, let me grab my move tool, and let's pull it in again. And this time I'm holding down the Option key when I do it. Now, when I hold down the Option key, I don't even get a confirm. I don't get anything, because when I held down the Option key for the second tiger, notice it does not have that little icon in the right corner, bottom right corner. So that means that this tiger is not a smart object. That means that this tiger doesn't have that special protection on it. It's just a regular layer, just like any other layer you'd create. So what's the difference? They look exactly the same. They work exactly the same. There's no difference between them because it's the same layer. But one's a smart object and the other one isn't. So for example, if I take the one that's not a smart object and I free transform, Command T, and I scale it all the way down, I make it really, really tiny. And then I commit to it. I say, yep, I want it tiny just like that. That little oh, it's even behind me. You can't see it. Let's move it over. That little bitty tiger that's all the way in the bottom right-hand corner now, that's so small it's like a postage stamp. But I've committed to it. So that said, take this resolution that you had, squinch it all the way down, and throw away the excess pixels. We don't need them because we made it small. Don't need all that extra resolution. So now, if I were to Command T again, I change my mind. I want it bigger. Command T, or Control T on Windows, and scale it back up, and then commit to it. That tiger doesn't look as sharp as that tiger anymore because we've up-resed it now. We took something that was great, scaled it down, threw away some data, and then we changed our mind by scaling it back up and said, Photoshop, you figure out what it should look like. And Photoshop did the best it could, but it threw away so much data that, look at the eyes, look at the tiger's ears, look at the hair or fur coming out of the ear compared to the other ear. You can easily see the difference between the two of the one I scaled up that wasn't a smart object, scale down and scale back up. Now let's say I do it again. Now it probably won't get too noticeably worse, but let's Command T, scale it down again, commit to it, and then, oh, nope, I want it bigger again, scale it up again. Now I'm doing it twice. I'm throwing away more data, and I'm scaling it back up, and I'm saying, I hope that you can make this look better. And again, you might not be able to tell much of a difference between the last two, but it's progressively getting worse. Photoshop does a good job of scaling things up, but it can only do so much. It can only put back so much data that you decided to throw away, and it has to make up for it now. So now I'm going to go to the other one. I'm going to move this one down, and I'm going to go to the Smart Object one this time. Not going to do anything different. Scale it down again. Command T. Scale this one down. Make it really, really, really tiny. Go ahead and commit to it. I've committed to it. I've said, yep, make it really small. And then scale it back up. Command T. I'm not going to do undo. That would be cheating. I'm going to actually scale it back up. Scale it back up, and look at that beautiful tiger. Because the entire time when I scaled it down and scaled it back up, because it was a smart object, Photoshop says, oh, you want to contain this stuff. You don't want to throw anything away. I'll let you scale it to your heart's content, and I'm not going to delete any data. So I can keep scaling it up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down all I want. And it would always look as beautiful as the original. Now, if I go way bigger than the original, I'm going to have the same problem. It's going to have to make up the data for what that should look like. Smart Object's not going to let me do that. But it's going to take something that I had, and I can scale it and play with it and move it around all day long, and it will never destroy the original. That's why we like smart objects. All right, so let's do another example. I'm going to turn off the tigers for now. We'll just go back to the jungle. And let's say that I want to bring a logo in. Now logos, we tend to do those as vectors. So same thing, when I bring in this Adobe Stock Smart Home, Solar Home logo that I created, it's got some text on it and everything, pull that in. Now that is tiny. That's already small. That was the size it was created. But because it's vector, I can scale up and it will retain the quality. And if I click OK to commit to it, we can see that that came in as a smart object. Same thing. Let's grab the solar logo again. I think that's the one I pulled in. Yeah, the bottom one. I'm going to hold down the Option key this time and pull it in again. Now I'll put it up at the top this time. And if I commit to it and it doesn't have the smart objects, then I did it right. All right. Oh no, I didn't do it right. All right, so let me make sure I'm doing the right one. Delete that one for a second. Delete, 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 delete. Pull it in one more time. If not, I know how to force the issue. So hold down the Option key, and maybe it just won't do it because it's vector. That could be the case too. Yeah, it's not doing it because it's vector. But it's okay. It didn't keep the link, but it kept it. It says, I'm going to still protect you. Make this a smart object whether you want me to or not. So I'm going to go around it. I'm going to say, no, no, no. I really don't want you to be a smart object anymore. I'm going to go to my layer menu. I could do it right click on the layer as well, but I'm going to go to layer menu, come down to smart objects and say rasterize. In other words, don't make it smart. Don't keep it vector. Don't do all the things that would make it cool. So now we've got the logo on the bottom. And again, we brought it in small, but we can go ahead and scale it up. No problem. And looks great. So now I'll turn that one off for a second, and we'll go to the one that I told it not to be smart, not to be vector anymore. We scale that one up, and we start to see it fall apart already. It's not bad, it's not awful, but it's nowhere near as sharp as that one. So it's a little bit of blurred on the edges, and it's okay. In most cases, you'll get away with it, but why not keep it smart? Why not keep it infinitely scalable? And with a vector object, smart object, you can go way bigger than the original and keep all the quality, and it will look sharp no matter what size you make it. And you can keep scaling and keep making it up and down all you want. Okay, so that's the difference between working with a vector smart object. And I also showed you how to turn off the smart object. Now, what's another reason we would use a smart object? Well, let's say you want to work with text. Let's say we want to put some text in here. We want to say jungle. All right, and we'll make our text bigger. Great. So now we got our jungle text in there. And let's say I want to blur that text a little bit. Well, typically with a text layer, you don't get to run filters on it. You don't get to say that you want to run a filter on it. So when I go to run a filter on it, Photoshop will let me, but it's going to tell me it's going to have to do one of two things first. If I go up to my filter menu and I say I want to run a Gaussian blur on this text layer, it lets me do it. But watch what it comes up with before it lets me actually do it. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. Can't run filters on text layers. So you got a choice. Rasterize it, like we saw what happens to the logo, which we don't want to do if we can avoid it. Or the smart choice, which is the default, convert to smart object. So if I say, yeah, I don't want to do that bad thing, convert to smart object, then I can run blur filters all I want. I can turn it down, I can make it more blurry, I'm getting a nice preview, I don't want to make it so blurry I can't read it, but let's make it nice and out of focus. Now we click OK, and it does this really, really cool thing on the Layers panel. It says, I am going to not only convert it to a smart filter layer, and I'm going to show you the filter you ran on it. But you can turn that off. So if you want to see it without the filter at any given time, no filter. Turn it back on, filter. You want to change the amount of blur. Normally when you run a filter on a layer, that's it. Once you click OK, you've done it. But if you run a filter on a smart object layer or a smart filter layer, you can always come back, double click, and say, no, 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 make it a little more blurry. Or no, 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 make it less blurry. You can keep coming back to it and keep making changes. Because here's what you're really doing. And this is what a smart object is. A smart object, and for those of you in the United States, you will understand this term. I'm not sure if it's sold worldwide. It's like Tupperware. Think of the plastic food containers, for those of you who don't know what Tupperware is in different countries. The plastic food containers that have that lid on it, and you can take your lunch to, back when you used to go to work, you could take your lunch to work in that Tupperware, in that plastic container with a nice resealable lid on it. And the reason you put it in that plastic container is so nothing wouldn't happen to it. Like if nothing would spill out of it and nothing would spill into it. Nothing would touch it. So when you say convert a layer to a smart object or convert multiple layers to a smart object, you're saying make this layer into Tupperware. So I can do stuff on the outside of it. I can write my name on a piece of Tupperware. It does not affect the food on the inside. So, and I could use a eraser and erase my name off of it. It does not affect. So that's what we're doing. We took the word jungle, we put it in a piece of Tupperware called a smart object, and now we're blurring the outer container. We're blurring the smart object, and it's letting me see through. That's the difference. All right, so Pat's saying, this is the most clear of any that I've seen, thank you. Yeah, because smart objects, everyone says, use it, do it, blah, blah. They don't really explain the concept. And that's the concept, is that you're putting whatever it is, and it could be one layer, it could be 10 layers, but you're putting it all in a container. You can do whatever you want to the outside of the container, and it does not permanently affect the contents. So, what does that mean? We already saw that we can turn it off, turn it on, we can delete it, we can get rid of it. What if I need to change the word? What if I want to change the word to say tiger? Well, I can't grab my text tool, my type tool, and click on, I'm already on the type tool, I can't click on that anymore and change it. If I click, it's going to add a new text layer. Because even though that's still text, it's now in a smart object that you would need to go into to change. How do I go into it? Double click on it. When you double click on it, oh, now I'm back to my editable text. I can go in this and I can say that this should say tiger now. It shouldn't say jungle anymore. Now notice it also when you double click on a smart object, it opens whatever's inside that Tupperware, whatever's inside that smart object into a new document, into another document. So I'm editing just the text in its own document, its own Photoshop big document. And that's regardless of the original document that it came from. So I got two images open right now, two documents. So once I'm done, once I've named that, once I've said change it from jungle to tiger, click OK, then I close the tiger layer, the tiger, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say layer, the Tiger document, it's going to ask me, do I want to save it? Just like closing any other document. Yes, I do. And now I've made a change that I can always go back and change. And now Tiger put back in the Tupperware. The Tupperware has blur on it. Now Tiger is blurred. That's the difference. Okay. All right. So let's see what this says. We should be using smart objects on every layer we create. What's the negative of memory? Okay. So Robert, the answer really is no. You wouldn't use a smart object on everything because you don't need it. I don't need a smart object if it just wanted to say Tiger. If I'm not going to add any effects to it or do anything to it, I don't need to make that a smart object. So that's why every layer isn't a smart object layer by default anyway. The answer to your question though, should I be using smart objects when I am going to do stuff to a layer? Yes. What's the negative impact? Makes the file bigger. So that's it. It could potentially make the file bigger because remember when we used the example of taking the logo and making it really small? When it's not a smart object, it's throwing that data away, therefore making your document smaller. When it's not throwing the data away, that big logo is still the big logo even though you made it small. So it's still taking up the same amount of resources, in other words. All right, Shawana is saying, so easy to understand. Well, thank you. All right, nice analogy. Food, thanks, Sharon. All right, so now, let's say like we cheated. We made smart objects automatically. We drug a layer over or a library item over it, made a smart object. We went to blur text, made a smart object. What if you want to make one on your own? What if you don't want to be reliant on Photoshop making it for you? So let's throw all these layers away. Let's throw away all of these. I'm going to start from scratch. I'm going to start from where you would start. You start with an image. Okay, so I have an image open. And then you might do a composite. You might say, hey, I'm going to open up this Tiger layer, and I'm going to composite it onto the other one. So I'm just going to drag it over. So I'm pretending I didn't have it in a library. So when I pull it over, it comes over as a regular layer. Hey, now I want to say the word Tiger. So I would click Tiger, say the word Tiger, make it whatever font, color, whatever, blah, blah, blah I want, put it wherever I want. And so now I got a nice text layer. And let's say I saw a flag there earlier. We don't want to use the squirrel. The squirrel's bad. Those who watch that stream will understand why. All right, here's a British flag. UK flag, I should say. All right, so let's go ahead and pull the flag in. Now that flag, let's do it the right way. Let's escape. Let's get out of that. Let's pull it over so it's not a smart object, hopefully. Yep, cool. And I think that will still be a smart object, but we can rasterize it. Yep, I thought so. Let's right click and let's just simply rasterize that layer. Okay, so now let's say you had 3 layers that you didn't get from libraries. They're not smart objects right now. And of course, you could apply a blending mode to this layer to maybe blend it in better than what we're seeing here. So we'd be able to see it better against that background. Maybe a nice overlay or something. We'll see. I don't like any of these on that dark background. It's not important. All right, we'll leave it white and we'll just take it out the old-fashioned way. All right, let's go ahead and say that we want to... I'm just thinking of the million ways I can do it. Let's use properties. Let's just say, let's try remove background. Okay, remove background. We'll do it that way. Okay, so now that I got my flag in place and we've got our 3 layers. We even got a layer with a layer mask. Now I say, hey, I might want to do something to all 3 of these. And by the way, while we're at it, no sense in not doing this. Let's go to our properties one more time. Let's try to remove background on a tiger. Not bad. All right. Not perfect, but not bad. Okay, so now we got our 3 layers because it couldn't live with it being with the background. We have our 3 layers. We can move them around. We can do all the stuff we would normally do. You can even group them together as a layer group. You can put them in a folder, blah, blah, blah. However, if we convert them all to a smart object, then we can do all the things we just talked about. So if I select all 3 and I go to, I can do it from either place, but let's say I go to my layer menu. I go to Smart Objects and I say Convert to Smart Objects. So there's a layer command for it. It's in the, you can right click on the layers. You can do it a lot of ways. Convert to Smart Objects. Notice what it did. It looks like it, hey, you got rid of all my layers. No, I didn't. I just took all 3 layers and put them in one thing called Tiger, which is the Smart Object layer. So now if I were to do a blur, I can apply a blur. Let's do a Gaussian blur like we did before. And oh no, I don't want to get rid of it so much, but I do kind of like the blurry. Okay, so here's what I like. I like the blurry text and maybe the blurry flag, but I don't like the blurry tiger. Well, how would I get rid of that? Well, keep in mind that when it created that smart filter layer, it also made a mask. So if I were to grab my paintbrush and I were to go to my brushes and not use the crazy brush I used last time, let's use soft and round, then I can paint that off of this part of the tiger to bring that back in. And again, all I'm doing is I've applied a blur, but I'm saying I applied it to the smart object, and I'm also saying don't apply it to these parts of that layer. So I'm going in and just brushing it away on the mask that I got automatically when I applied the filter. So can I do more? Sure. Can I go in and apply another filter? Absolutely. Filter menu, camera raw filter. Because maybe in the camera raw filter, and notice what camera raw filter does. It brings back up the original. Unfortunately, it's not going to show it to me in context by default like this, but let's say that I just want to, we'll make it crazy vibrant. We'll make the tiger really, really orange, unrealistically orange, just to show a difference. And we'll make it brighter. Click OK, and it does those things, but notice it didn't do it to the face because I had already masked the face for that layer. So if I were to say I want it blurry and masked, then I could paint white back in those spaces, and I will get the orange blurry tiger. But I am getting the orange blurry body unchanged. Oh, you want to change the word for tiger to something else? How do I get back to the text? Double click on a smart object, then you go back to the text and edit the text all you want. So now you want it to say jungle again. It says jungle again. Click OK, close it, save it. It does the update and keeps all the other things that you applied to your Tupperware. So you applied a blur, you applied a crazy camera raw filter, all of which you can turn off and turn on. So if I don't like the blur, but I like the camera raw filter, I can turn the blur off, keep the camera raw filter, even though I did it after the fact. So that's another thing that it lets me do. Typically, filters are they're cumulative. So when you apply a filter, it tends to, like, you apply the filter, you blurred it, then you apply some other color to it. Well, now you can't get back to the blur. This way you can, because you're not really stacking the effect on top of each other than visually. So that's what Smart Objects is all about. And that's the way we work with Smart Objects. Do I use them all the time? Yes. Do I use them for every single layer? No, because every single layer doesn't need it. The jungle layer didn't need it. I haven't done anything to it yet. So, but if I were going to, I would always look to see if I can use a smart object to make it, whatever it is I'm going to work on, less destructive that way. All right. So hopefully you guys got something out of that. Hopefully you will now go to work with smart objects without fear. You'll be able to go in. In case you make a smart object for something that in case you make a smart object for some object and you want to extract the contents, you can go backwards. You can say smart object back to layers. So that's a command. You can do it that way. You can also double click the smart object and drag the content to another document if you wanted to. So you can do it that way. So lots of ways to go backwards. And also you could just rasterize the smart object to become a regular layer again, but I don't recommend that. It's just easier to say, Photoshop, convert this back to layers again after the fact. But keep in mind, you're also going to lose whatever you did to it, the smart object, because the smart object is the container. You're saying dump the food onto a plate, throw away the Tupperware, where the Tupperware is what had the blur on it. So you just have to remember that what you're doing is what you're doing. All right. Jamie's asking, when do you send a photo from Lightroom as a smart object? I don't usually use that workflow. So Jamie's asking, there's a workflow for Lightroom that you can edit in Photoshop, like you normally do. And you can edit in Photoshop as a smart object. So it just basically brings your photo over from Lightroom as a smart object, ready to go. I've not found a reason why I would do that. I don't know. Jamie, in other words, I don't have a workflow that I use that for. Because what you're saying is bring this photo over, but don't let me get at the pixels unless I really want to dig into the pixels, which is usually what I want to do. So I guess I would do it if I only want to apply a filter, like we just did. I want to apply some filter to it that Lightroom doesn't have. And like a sharpening. Yeah, maybe if I wanted to apply sharpening filters to it. Or something else to it that Lightroom doesn't have, but then I would keep the non-destructive workflow that way. I don't do it, but yeah, that would be one of the reasons why you might do it. All right, where can I get the Creative Cloud background imagery for my Zoom videos? It is proprietary, meaning someone made that, and normally that person's name is on there somewhere. But yeah, someone made that, so we can't just freely give it away because that's giving away someone's art. Normally, like I said, I have their name, their Behance next to it, but it might be buried behind something. It is a nice background, that's why I use it, but we licensed it, so that's got to pay the artist if you want to use their stuff. All right, cheers everybody, thanks for watching, and we will catch you on the next one. Yay, bye everybody. Have a good day. Have a good rest of your day. Bye everybody.